Okay, so today we had project one. That's something you're already supposed to have submitted. And we also have project two. And in project two, really want to point out that there's this design. So this is supposed to be a way to for you to put out your idea before you actually submit the project. I only 13 people so far did use this option, but if you don't use it, you're risking of getting kind of a bad grade because the TA may assume that your user flow does not really fit whatever the spec is here. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go over like 20-30 minutes of new material, and then we're gonna do the quiz. So let's do that. Any questions, by the way? Any questions? Okay. Okay, so just to remind you where we are, we have this painting app, okay? And in the painting app, we have what we did so far. We have this control over like the color. We have like a destroy everything that kind of releases this particle system effect. We also have control over size. That's something we did last week, where you can change the size of the objects you're painting. And today I'm going to show you how to do transparency and so on. Okay, so transparency is basically this kind of slider that controls how transparent a material is. Now, before I talk about that, I want to quickly see if anyone remembers what is the issue of transparency. So let me just go over that again. So let's just create a new material here. Material. Create, I saw it here. Not the this material, okay. And let's call this a test material. Now, if I have this test material, let's just make it blue for now. Or whatever, make it like, let's make it yellow, okay. And I'm gonna assign this material to like this cylinder here just for fun. Okay, come on. Okay, now how can I get this material to be transparent? Can anyone remind me what's the sequence of operations we need to? Yeah.
To change the rendering mode from opaque to transparent.
Right. So if you look at the material, and let me just kind of do this step by step. This is the new test material we have. It's yellow. If you look here and you have to actually click on the material, and you can see the shader is standard, that's fine, but the problem is here with rendering mode, that's opaque. Now, an opaque rendering mode will never show you any transparent material. So to make it transparent, you actually have to do transparent, okay? And now once you have that, you can actually change the transparency, okay? Now, last class, we had a problem kind of getting like objects to be transparent because we had some sort of code and we were trying to edit the transparency and it didn't work out. So this class, I just want to show you quickly what's the way to deal with that. So maybe let's open a new project here. Let's work. Okay. Okay, and let's just open that piece of code that didn't work well. So you saw that you can actually create a transparent material manually, but not with the script. So, and let me just show you what we had last time where it didn't work. We had this function called setTransparent, okay? And it didn't work because I can just play it and you can see, well, stop. So this doesn't work. Not self-destroy. See, it doesn't work. And So what we're gonna do now is, instead of like kind of grabbing the material and changing the color, which does not work, we're gonna do something a little bit more clever, but not too complicated. We're actually gonna instantiate, when we're like painting this object, we're gonna assign the transparent material to it. So then when we're painting it, it doesn't like have this bug where you cannot actually get it transparent. So the idea here is basically you have your materials, right? You're gonna create a new material, create material, and I'm just gonna call it transparent material. And then I'm gonna change this to be transparent. Now I wanna just feed this into my script so every object I'm painting has this material. And then I can use it to make it transparent later on. So if you look into your script, like let's just create a public material, transparent material. Okay. And the idea is that every object that you're going to paint will have this material. And then it's easy to set it or not set it to be transparent. So let's, so here is like my code where I'm creating all these objects, paintable objects. Let's clean up some stuff here that I don't really need. So what's happening, previously we just set the color to be whatever, but I'm not going to do this. I'm going to actually do something like this. So I'm going to do that material equals new material, transparent material. So basically what I'm saying here is that my game object that I'm creating, whatever it is, it could be like a primitive, it could be like a instantiated like prefab. I'm going to set its material to be using that transparent material. And then later on, when I'm trying to paint it and change its transparency, it should work out of the box. So let me just see I didn't forget anything. So this should be fine. The material color is fine. Let's just save this. See if it compiles. Are you going to compile? And let's assign that material there. So here I have a spot here for a transparent material. So I'm going to just move this here. Okay. Now let's go look into the set transparent option and see what's happening here. So let me just delete this, maybe. So we had this code from before, but it didn't really work well. So let's just use a different workflow. So let's just do material color. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just grab the old color first. Old color is like whatever the current color is. And now I want to set the new color to be using kind of this, the old red, green, and blue, but also use the new transparency value. So, let's grab this material dot color should be equal to a new color, which uses all of this stuff. And this should be old color. Old color, old color, old color. And this we can delete. So I think this should work. Let's see. So we're grabbing the current material of the object. We're grabbing that specific old color. And then we're just kind of assigning a new color which has the same red, green, and blue values, but with this new transparency value. Okay. And like we did, when we instantiate the object here, where's that? Somewhere here. Transparent material. We actually are using that transparent material as a template. So let's save this and see if it works. So paint, let's cancel this, change the color, and let's see. Yeah, so it looks like it is working, okay? So there are other ways to do this, and I posted some on Canvas. You can actually do kind of everything by script. You don't have to use this specific way where you're using like a template material, like a transparent template material when you're instantiating the object as a way to kind of allow this transparency. But you know, it's whatever you want. You don't have to do this way, but this is like the easiest way probably. Any questions on that? No? Okay, we have two more things, and then we can do the quiz. So I need to talk about let's talk about the glow effect. So if you go to, okay, this is my other, so I have, so let me just show you what's happening and then explain it. So I have this code, and I have, let's cancel this self-destroy, and maybe let's set it to be green just so you can see it clearly. So I have this kind of slider that you can see kind of changes it to be kind of self-illuminating. So you can see as I increase this glow slider, it is increasing the brightness of the object. And if I set it to be red, you can see the same effect here. Like if I increase the glow, it's really gonna kind of pop. Now, you know, this may not concern you for your specific project too, but this may be a feature that you wanna be aware of. Now, glow is like a tricky parameter of the material. So let me stop this and show you. So here, like you're familiar with this shader, and it's like, you know, the standard material and all that. We learned about this rendering mode that you have like opaque or transparent, but there's a lot more details here. So if you click on edit here, let's just see what happens. If you click on edit on the shader, and you can see a bunch of all of these kind of very, I would say like C or C++ kind of parameters. So these parameters are what Unity kind of uses under the hood to visualize colors for you. One of these parameters are like emission, and there's like an emission color and all of that. So what we're doing for glow, we're basically kind of fiddling around with emission, okay? So let's see how to do that. Emission. Emission. So what I did is I kind of used the same thing as before to get this working. So this is our transparency loop. It's very similar to the emission loop, but again, since emission is not it's not like red, green, or blue or alpha like you have here. It's a very specific keyword, which is only accessible through this kind of weird kind of inspector screen. Let me show that again. So to access that parameter, you actually have to go to the color, click on edit, and you'll have it here. You know, you have emission map, emission color, and all of these other parameters. So these are only changeable with a very specific type of script, which actually kind of overwrites this parameter. So here, that's what basically I'm doing. I'm overwriting this emission color. So I actually have to type the name of the parameter I'm overloading and the value of that new value for that parameter. And that's going to overwrite this value over here. So again, tricky. It's not super straightforward to understand why this is the way it is, but that's just another thing you may or may not need to know about if you're working with colors in Unity. Another thing I needed to do to get this working is, let me just explain this first also. So when I'm creating the emission color, that specific emission, I'm making it so it depends on the slider value and the existing colors. So it'll be weird, for example, if if I have like a yellow kind of sphere and it starts to emit like green light or something. It may be fun, but it will be weird. So I'm just using the existing color as a base value for that kind of illumination. So let's kind of show this again. So let's make it like red, and you can see like the emission here, which is kind of a cool effect. Another thing I needed to do to get this to work, and that's not straightforward, is to actually you need to actually enable this parameter. Where is it? Emission. So you actually need to, when you're creating this material, so what we did is we created the material, and we're going to use the transparent material as like a placeholder for all the instantiated objects, all their colors and all of that. And now when I created the material, I actually have to enable emission. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So that's like 2 steps here. So first of all, you need to enable emission with this kind of specific script line. Otherwise, if this is kind of disabled, it's not going to work. And then you have to actually, when you're playing around with emission, you actually have to, where is it? You actually have to kind of do set color, emission color, blah. So what I'm going to do is this is going to be recorded, and I'm also going to put on Canvas the specific kind of explanation of why this is the way we change emission in Unity with these specific set of scripts. There's also like a very long kind of video from a previous instructor that explains this. So I'm going to also post that online so you can see that at home. Any questions? Okay, so now I'm going to move on to the clock. So let's stop that, and after that we can do the quiz. So so last week, let's just save this for now. So last week we had this clock. Okay, this is a complete clock. Let me see if I can find a non-complete clock. Maybe here. So I had created like a different scene, and I started to create a clock. And this is my creation. It's not a fancy clock, but it works. So what I did is, there's a trick here to creating this clock. So the trick is, you have this cube, right? And like you have, it's parented to this empty, which is like the hour kind of game object here. So if what I did it so it's easy for me to edit the clock. So I can just copy this, right? And then instead of like kind of changing the specific place manually of this specific dial, I can just change the rotation angle over here. So I can just make it like 120, and I can just continue that process and then make it 150. So it's very easy to kind of add more dials to this clock. And that could be 210. And this could be 240 and so on. So why is this working? Because this cube is parented with an empty that's in the center here. So if I move that center, then it will move with it. That's just how it works. If you try to create like a cube separate of this center, like say I'm just gonna move this cube to be out, kind of not with this, not kind of linked with this empty, and then I'm going to do the rotation, it will do something, it will do a different kind of rotation, which is not what I want. So by default, a Unity object will rotate around itself. Okay, so everything rotates around itself. That's how it works in Unity. But if you want it to rotate around a specific point, like say that center of the clock, you actually have to make it a child of something, and then you can, by changing that something, you can get that cube to rotate around that object. Okay? So that's the trick. Let me know if that makes sense. So now let's just create for fun like the seconds dial. So I'm just going to use the same kind of dial as before, but going to change its color. So let's just take this guy and name this seconds, and change. Let's just change its look a little bit, so it's more. It looks more like a seconds dial. Maybe like that. Maybe like skinnier, and move it like here. like this. And let's give it like a different material so it looks a bit nicer. Okay. Maybe like this. Okay. And now what I want to do is I want this seconds dial to rotate as the seconds pass, like in a real clock. So for example, if it's like 30 seconds, I want to see something like something like this, right? That's what I want to see. So to get that to work correctly, I need to actually create a script and do that rotation in a script. So let's just create a new script. So and it's a very quick, short script. It's not a big deal. You go to clock base. Let's click add component, new script, and let's just call it a clock. Let's wait for this to run. Okay, so my script is empty, does nothing there. I'm just going to add that control for the seconds dial. So as always, I have to actually have a game object. So let's just public game object seconds. Okay, and let's assign this seconds dial to that game object. So here, remove the seconds here. Now what I want my script to do is every tick of the clock, I want it to update the location of the seconds dial. So if I go here, so this should be under update, right? So let's first of all grab the number of seconds, the current number of seconds. So that should be system. So I just remember this, but if you don't know what it is, you can just Google date time now seconds. And like you can just print it for now, just to kind of verify that it's getting you the actual seconds. So I know right now I have like 10 seconds on my clock, and you can print this and see that it works. It doesn't rotate anything yet. You can just see that it's actually doing the right thing. Yeah, so it's printing the seconds, and it looks like it's doing well. So now let's get this value. Let's map this value to the actual rotation of this dial for the clock. So let's just say this will be in seconds, okay, or current seconds. So what I want to do is I want to get the location of the rotation basically of this dial. Question? I heard something over there. No? Oh, okay. So I want to get the rotation of this dial and just change it. So transform local rotation, and that should be quaternion, Euler. Okay, and let me just explain what happens. So what I'm typing out here is just the script to change the rotation coordinates of this dial. So if you look at my dial now, I have let's just change this to be -90. I have -90, 0, and 0 as my rotation vector. Okay, so I'm just going to copy it as it is without doing anything new. Okay, and I'm gonna maybe like change this to be 10 just to see, like nudge it a little bit just to see if it actually does anything. Save this. And yeah, it does work. Okay, so now let's just get the full kind of seconds to affect this specific parameter. So I just know that this parameter is the one that you need to do to change like the dial. I just know that in advance. I just checked that. Question?
Oh no, I was gonna.
Oh. Okay. So so like 0 seconds is basically 0 degrees, right? 30 seconds, it's like 180 degrees. Okay, and 60, you know, and or 15 seconds is like 90 degrees, and so on. So basically, you can be very mathy here, but the idea is like, 1 second is equal to is basically 6 degrees off the dial. And how did I get to that number? You can just do 360 degrees divide by 60 seconds. That's like, 6 degrees per second. Okay. Anyway, so the idea here is basically you're getting this current seconds and you're multiplying it by 6, and that should give you the right degree. Yeah.
You have to multiply it by -6?
Yes, but let's show.
Okay,
So
sorry.
let's just show why. So let's play this and see what happens. Actually, let me actually print this also. Or you don't have to print it. You can just see it. It kind of works weirdly. So you can see it is doing the update of the dial, but it's doing it in the what? Is it this the right way for a clock to turn? Right. So I probably need to flip them, like I forgot the minus sign there, right? So I'm showing this because in your own projects you may not have to add the minus sign. Maybe you put the camera in a different way or whatever, but I can just easily see that I just have to flip the rotation. So I can just do something like this, and it should work out of the it should work well. So let's do that. And I can kind of get the nice kind of rotation here. This is like I have a small issue here with the translation of the dial, but you can see this nicely here. It's like a bit fancier clock. Okay, any questions? So let me see if there's anything else I wanted to say.